Welcome to Decades, hosted by Chris Rubio. Decades is a show made up of 5 generations of people brought together to discuss topics you wouldn't normally talk about with others. The goal of the show is to learn by having some good, possibly heated discussions, without losing the simple fact that it's okay to talk to different people with different opinions other than your own.
Welcome to Decades. My name is Chris Rubio. As you can see, we have a full house from all over the country. We've got a great mix of people. We've got Sub-60 Ed, Bill Geiser, Crazy Man, Alex on Tech, Charles Wallace, Charles Schultz, Tony Siracusa, and Michael McD. All right, it's going to be... Did I say Bill? Where's Bill Geiser? Oh, there he is. I said Bill Geiser. So it's going to be a great show. Bill Geiser coming out hot doing the old Trump dance. Guys, there's not much has really happened in the past 2 weeks. I figured we'd just talk about flowers or something, but we'll try to figure out something to talk about. I think the thing that's really hot on everyone's mind, I don't think we need to talk about the election as much as we did a couple of weeks ago. I think it's over. We can talk about the ramifications of it, if you will. Let's start with Tony. What do you think about, let's go. There's a long list of Trump appointees. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to start with one of them. Let's just go with the first one. The first one, Tom Homan, border czar. What's your thoughts on him as the border czar?
I mean, look, he fits the Trump model, which is we're going to deport everybody. We're going to find miraculous ways using the military in violation of the Constitution, in violation of posse comitatus. We're going to use the military as a police force on American streets and round up all those nasty brown people and get them out to the other side of the border. And that's what Trump ran on, and that's what Homan's going to do.
Okay, but should I be worried? Because I'm a brown person.
Yeah, and you're not brown enough.
Oh, so there's different hues.
You're not illegal enough.
I'm not. Go ahead, Charles. What?
You're not illegal enough.
Okay, so keep going on that.
It's not brown people. It's people here illegally.
And criminal.
Alex, go ahead. What'd you say?
And criminals. Criminal illegal aliens, not just everybody, okay?
Okay.
You're an illegal alien, you're a criminal.
Okay, so let me go. Jim Scarano, all immigrants are brown. So let me go to Mike and then Bill Geiser. Mike, go ahead.
I was just saying, but depends on how you look at it, right? If you're here illegally, you're a criminal. So yeah, if you want to define it that way, all illegal immigrants are criminals. And if we're going to just take the criminal ones out, we're going to take anybody here who's undocumented, which is an enormous number that, as I think as Tony pointed out, we don't have the resources to do. There is no magic, it's not an episode of 24 where suddenly the helicopters come into every city and start hauling people out by the hundreds. It's probably unconstitutional. The backlog right now for people demanding due process but before they're deported is already ridiculous. So, and there's no indication that there'd be any way to get these folks out of here without putting them through some sort of system. So while it's something he promised, and I understand that his voters wanted it, I think practically speaking, 6 months from now, we're going to be nowhere with it. And a year from now, we're going to be nowhere with it. And 4 years from now, we're going to be nowhere with it. Because it's just not something our country is designed to do or have the resources to do. By the way, I'm somebody who firmly believes we need to reform the immigration system. Absolutely. There's no question about that. But this mass deportation, there are entire states in our union that some of their economics rely on having illegal, undocumented immigrants in the labor force.
No.
Yes.
Not true.
Well, I mean, Michael, I understand your point, but and Sub-60, you're nodding your head, but it's the old adage like this. Let's say I went to a barber. Obviously, I do not. Say I go to a barber and my barber dies. Okay. Right. Am I going to stop getting a haircut? No, I'm going to find another barber. Can't you argue that?
No, not at all.
But Chris, hang on one second. I know you got a bunch of people who want in. Hang on one second. We've got unemployment at 4%, which any viable economist will say is full employment. All right. I am more than happy to see a show of hands of people who are going to move to Arkansas and start chopping off chickens' heads at the Zaki Farms chicken plant replacing some of the undocumented workers that are there. The state of North Carolina 8 years ago had a plan for people on unemployment. They offered them agriculture jobs, same pay, same everything else as everybody else was getting. For the first 3 months, they had 700 people show up. By the time they got to 6 months, 5 people were still showing up because they weren't willing to do the work. All right. There is a reason these people have risked everything, including their own well-being, to come here.
What year was that, Tony, you said?
It was 7 years ago.
Okay, so it was pre-COVID. Okay, go ahead, Bill Geiser.
Well, I think there's a couple of points. Number one, the people have spoken. The majority of Americans don't agree with Tony. And that's a clear fact. There's a mandate in this country to close the border up and replace an open border with a more pragmatic approach to filtering people in. We've had too many issues, too many problems, and there are huge inconsistencies. And I'll tell you about one I heard about today. Do you guys know who Riley Gaines is? She's the swimmer that's gained a lot of notoriety because of the issue with her having to compete against the trans guy that competed against. Well, anyway, make a long story short, her husband is from Europe, I believe, and has been trying to become a naturalized U.S. citizen. And the process is now over 2 years that he's gone through this. He's trying to do this legally, and this fucking government of ours is now put a stop on him. You know why? Because he didn't get a fucking COVID shot. And you've got every Tom, Dick, and Paco coming across the southern border, none of them getting COVID shots at all. I mean, you talk about inequities here. Come on. This is crap. I'm not buying any of this stuff that we need them for labor. That's not true. That's not true. That's a stretch.
Well, there goes your house.
If we really wanted to be creative, we could turn the inner cities of places like Chicago, which has got massive genocide going on, black on black genocide, and turn that into a jobs program if we want to do that. So shut the border for time being. Let's get a sensible plan in place to vet people coming across. I agree. We want immigration, but my view is let's pick the best and the brightest, not anybody that just happens to come across from Venezuela, from a prison in Venezuela. This has been a disaster. And like I said, the American public voted overwhelmingly to put a stop on it, and it needs to happen quick.
John Ferris just chimed in. It takes 8 years and a lot of money. Alex on tech, then I got you, Michael McDonald. Go ahead, Alex.
Okay, as far as we don't have resources to deport people or to make sure, only people who are illegally here, Biden people wanted to hire 86,000 IRS agents. Let's hire 86,000 ICE agents, okay, to help out to deport criminals from this country.
So the Biden thing is stupid too.
To the USA legally, I did it. Okay, go ahead, Michael.
I was just gonna say, yeah. Suddenly hiring 86,000 IRS agents is also stupid. Like that's not going to happen either. And whether Biden was serious about doing that or not, I don't know. But regardless of whether you buy into the idea that we need, the immigrants we have now to help with the economics of certain states and their various industries, and I believe you do. But regardless of that, logistically and financially, we just don't right now. Like we don't have a way to support these millions and millions of people. And while I appreciate the fact that he ran on it, it strikes me a little bit like a problem that he's going to quickly discover and his people are going to quickly discover, and his nominee, which I think was the original topic, is going to quickly discover is much harder to do. And nobody likes to see government resources wasted. And I will tell you that if you try and do it, what you're going to end up is quadrupling or quintupling the backlog at the immigration courts and seeing no results for it. So I don't have a problem, by the way, with arresting somebody who's committing a crime, determining that they're an illegal immigrant, and deporting them. I have no problem with that at all. If the system needs to be streamlined, I think Congress needs to get together and write new rules. I completely agree with most of what Bill said about the problems we have in our country. I just think the idea that a mass deportation is the solution
Well, I
is
think
pie in
one
the
easy
sky.
solution
It's not
is
practical.
to
It's
just
nonsense.
terminate the subsidies, and many of them will leave. I mean, that's a pretty good gig coming to the United States right now. Across the border, you get a driver's license, you get free housing, medical, you get a stipend. I mean, it's a good gig. Cut that off. Shut that off. Many of these guys will do a U-turn and head straight south.
But why are there subsidies existing? Is it a state's giving a subsidy to somebody who comes over every 6 months to pick tomatoes? Because I don't think we want to cut that subsidy off unless we all want to start paying $10.
I'm just saying, if you cross the border, you are given a phone. You're given a phone free. Do you get a phone? I didn't. No one gave me a phone, and I've been paying my taxes for over 60 years. What the hell? Why are they getting all these freebies? Why are we giving those freebies to the poor people in the inner city of Chicago? Why are we taking care of our own?
If they're getting unreasonable freebies, I'm with you.
They're getting housing. They're getting food. They're getting medical care. They're getting a good deal. Like I said, it's a great deal.
100% with you that if they're getting unnecessary freebies, what we need is someone in charge of immigration who wants to take the system we have now and figure out a way to make it more efficient and more fair and streamline it. And what we don't, and saying I'm going to mass deport everybody who's illegal is missing the point. It's not the problem. I mean, it's part of the problem, but it's not the solution to the problem we actually have, which is we need to fix the immigration system. And that requires bipartisan compromise on the Hill.
With that. But we've got a self-created personnel problem of illegal aliens in the United States that we can't afford to subsidize.
Well,
anymore.
Like I said, if whoever's going through this process that I think should be gone through of reforming the immigration system decides handing out cell phones is a bad idea, then that'll be part of the reform. I don't have a problem with that at all. It's this idea, though, that we're going to just start driving around in vans and scooping people off the street and driving them across the Mexican border. That's ludicrous. It's just ludicrous. It's not going to happen. It's ludicrous.
Okay, so Hector Nicodemus, my favorite Greek Filipino, says 11 million unauthorized immigrants in the U.S. as of 2022. Hold on, sub 60. 42 states have population less than 11 million. I mean, that's a big amount. And Mike, going back to what you said, and I think Jim Scarano asked, what is your solution? Because you said, and I quote, if they broke a law, they should be deported. Well, didn't they break a law if they're here illegally?
Yes.
Yeah. So my point is this. My point is this.
Of course
if
they did, Tony.
Look, we already do that. If we catch an illegal immigrant, we process them out and deport them.
No, we don't.
What we don't do is randomly pick people off the street because of how they look to determine whether they're illegal or not. Because my people who are Irish would have been randomly picked off the street 100 years ago for looking Irish. And that's not how America works. We don't pick people off the street based on how they look. So if you're committing a crime and you get pulled over,
I think that's
arrested,
an exaggeration. I don't think
part
that
of the
they're
problem is
just
you're illegal.
profiling people. There's going to be a little bit more to it.
Okay, let's go.
But what I'm not okay with is the idea that we're just going to start pulling people out of the phone book and shipping them home.
Well, but who's going to happen? Like, I don't understand how you're going to pull someone out of a phone book. I mean, I'm not dark enough to get deported, but I'm dark. I don't know, because during the summer I get pretty damn dark. I don't know. Gru, your question, then I'm going to go back to Tony because I think.
No, Rubio, you have the same questions I do. Trump keeps talking about mass deportation, but how's he going to do it?
Okay, for example, I live in Los Angeles, which is a sanctuary city. Okay, so let's say somebody commits a crime and gets put in a local jail, whether it's a LA jail or in a state jail, okay? When he or she is released from jail, since they live in Los Angeles, LAPD is not allowed to talk to ICE and report somebody who is a criminal, you know, who was illegal and also did commit some heinous crime. For example, in LA, they're basically getting released without them being brought to ICE and potentially being deported. So, I mean, and we have plenty of people like that in Los Angeles, and we have a high crime rate because of that. So, I mean, you know, that's the problem as well, in my opinion.
Tony, go ahead. You had some.
Yeah, I mean, let's be clear about, because at some point facts are going to matter. We don't have 86,000 ICE agents that have been hired. We have 86,000 IRS agents, and it's over 10 years, and it's to replace retiring agents. We didn't just all of a sudden hire 86,000 IRS agents to go knock on your door and get your taxes. So let's be real about that.
Now they're going after
Let's be
billions.
Let's be real about, if you're going to deport illegal immigrants, then some of you may have friends or family that are going, because 8% of the illegal immigrants in this country are from Europe who've overstayed their visas, and they got to go too. They got to go too.
Absolutely.
Get rid of the white people.
So you're making it a race thing. It's not a race thing.
It absolutely is.
No, it isn't.
Because when Donald Trump stands up there in his grievance campaign, which is what his entire campaign was, a campaign of grievance, it's they're unloading the insane asylums in Venezuela and Mexico. He never once said we got Europeans who are over here illegally. It was always about South America. He discovered there's a country in Africa called the Congo. He said, I don't know where it is, but they're coming, and they're speaking languages we don't know. He never once mentioned the Europeans. It was
okay.
always,
So all right, so fine. Okay, but fine. The Europeans have to go too. Everyone has to go back to Europe. Everyone has to go back to South America. We're in agreement then.
okay.
Yeah, anybody going?
John Ferris has a good comment. Says, why don't we punish the people that hire the illegals more harshly? They get a slap on the wrist and hire a new group the next day. Charles
Because
Walsh,
Donald Trump has illegals working for him in his vineyards.
We can't ask them for their IDs, just like we can't ask them when they vote.
Yeah.
in certain states. Jay Bradley says it's a joke getting freebies. I got 0 2 and had to pay to apply to the U.S. Embassy in New Zealand and waiting over 12 months for my case to come up. They weren't going to give it to me and made me wait 5 weeks, not knowing if they were going to give it to me. They were holding out on the technicality, but being the authenticity of a divorce document. Charles Wallace, you wanted to say something? You were coming in and out, and then I'm going to go to Charles Schultz because you're making some good facial expressions. Charles.
All I said was I'm fine with that. Everyone who's here illegally, if you're from Africa, if you're from South America, if you're from Europe, if you're from Canada, if you're here illegally, get out.
Yes.
Okay. Charles Schultz.
Yeah, I don't understand why the U.S. feels they need to be the only place on the planet that you can just kind of come and go as you please and just show up when you want and do what you want and nobody's going to say anything. I agree. It's logistically going to be challenging. I don't think that means we shouldn't try to get everybody who's not supposed to be here out. I think that should be the main focus of what Homan does, is to find every single legal way to address the problem, which is people are here. We don't know who they are. We don't know what they're doing. And the just going around in van and grabbing people isn't going to happen, because if you are just doing what you're supposed to, odds are we won't find you. There's that many people. We'll never find you if you're going about your life, living and doing your things, until you do something wrong, because then it's going to flag you because you're not supposed to be here, and it's going to show up, and then it's time for you to go. The biggest thing that I have a problem with is that there's this assumption that we're just going to go after grandma and grandpa. And the idea here is not to start with them. We're going to start with the people who are here doing bad things. The Venezuelan gangs taking over apartments in Colorado.
Not true.
Not true. Okay. How not?
The mayor of the town said it's not true. He's
the resident of the complex said it is true.
But the people,
okay.
It's literally everywhere.
I guess you guys could just naysay any fact that you don't agree with, but that's fine.
You that's what you just did. The people who live there.
Yeah, that's what you did.
What the mayor's saying.
Yeah. I mean, who's the mayor of Chicago?
Hold on, let me look it up.
All right.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
You're looking it up on MSNBC.
Well, just so I'm clear, what are the official sources of information for you
Go
guys?
to the
Horse's mouth.
bastion of free speech, X.
Oh my god! I just deactivated my account yesterday or 2 days ago, so I can't go
The
there.
woman who was interviewed
I love
Sky
it.
now.
I love it. See, you're
Woman
just
who
like
was
all the
interviewing
other
JD Vance
progressives
said only a
that
few
only
of
want to
them-
hang out with other progressives.
I
You
left.
never
I
hear
left.
the other
no,
story.
I left because I didn't want Elon Musk and X using my posts, my personal information to train AI. I'm anti. I couldn't opt out of
Are
that.
you on Facebook?
Yeah, but they're not training
so
on
Mark
AI.
Zuckerberg doesn't do that?
He hasn't announced it. I don't. If I'm
Oh
wrong.
my God, you got to be kidding! My kids worked as
All right.
there's a software engineer for 10 years. You are sorely mistaken.
Okay, so they're using AI. Just so I'm clear,
Of course they're
what
using
I'm
every
talking-
single
Facebook
company.
is using my posts to train AI.
They are using everything you say and do
They all
to
do.
train their
Google does it.
systems.
Well, if that's true, then I'll be off Facebook, just like I'm off X.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Are you on Facebook?
I feel like they use it all. I'm only on Facebook because if I spend too much time on any other platform, I won't have any time in my life for my kids or my wife. Frankly, I'm so willing to acknowledge how addicted I immediately got to one platform. I've deliberately stayed off all the others.
By the way,
But-
you have to get off Google too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Apple.
Look, they're all taking it. I'm a lawyer in a software company. I know, and I'm a contracts lawyer, so I know when you click accept and you haven't read any of that stuff, you just gave it all away anyway. So it doesn't really matter.
And on
that
Apple,
means-
just do a photo search in your Apple on your photos. You'd be surprised at what you can find just typing in words in there. They're studying everything,
Right.
and all that is training
Who's
their
gonna be-
back-end systems.
Who's going to be Trump's czar of privacy? That's what I want to know.
That's a good question. I don't know.
Pete actually brought up my next topic that I want to talk about. We talked about Totten Homan, border czar. We kind of somewhat agreed on certain parts. I think it's obviously did on other, which is great. That's what we're here for. Speaking of Elon, him and Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy are now the head of DOGE, Department of Government Efficiency. Is this a good thing, a bad thing? Speak one, speak all. Any comments on this at all? I'll start with, go ahead, Bill Geiser.
Hey Ed, where's Ed? I sent Ed something on
Where is
Slack. Can you bring that up? Did you get that?
Not
If
I
not,
let me check, Bill.
If not, I'll read it. I've got
Yeah,
it.
read
You
it,
guys
Bill. I
know
don't
who
see it.
Sank Ugur is?
Oh, yeah, Sync.
It's Cenk Uygur, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so
From Young
he's
Turk.
yeah, exactly. He's not on the Trump side by any means.
No, he's not. It's a
Um,
good call, yeah.
But he had a really interesting post on X today, and I'm going to read it to you guys. He said, I asked Elon Musk to put me in charge of cutting the Pentagon. And Elon said, what are your suggestions? So Elon got back to him. And he said, I run the largest left-wing network online, and a Democratic leader has never asked me that question. The idea that they would take advice from a populist is disdainful to them. And then he continued, now, which side seems more open and inclusive? Which side seems more welcoming? And which side really tries hard to drive you away if you disagree with even a little of their orthodoxy? Which side is asking for suggestions, and which one is demanding compliance and obedience? I think he brings up a good point.
What are
And
we
I think this-
arguing? I thought we were talking about Doge.
Well, that's what he was asking Elon about. Let me get involved in cutting the Pentagon. And Elon actually engaged him in an open debate. And Sink says, you know what? That's pretty fucking good compared to our party, which just says, shut the fuck up, agree with 100% of what I say, or I'm going to censor you.
Thank
That's
you,
essentially
Gert.
what he's saying.
Cenk
So-
Uygur is a devout socialist. He's not a part of the Democrat Party. So let's
I
not.
love the way you Democrats are fighting each other.
He is. I've interviewed the guy. I met with him at Politicon. I know the man. He is a self-proclaimed socialist. So why so now he's okay.
Why is he supporting Elon? He's
not
what
supporting
he's saying,
Elon. He's
Ed,
supporting
bring
getting
the
his
fucking
name
thing up, Ed.
He's supporting getting his name out in the public with Elon. He's not supporting Elon.
So Cenk is now non grata because he disagreed with the narrative.
I don't
He's the
care if
Democrat.
he's
That's the
I
problem
don't care
with
if he's
the
persona
Democrat
non
Party.
grata. He's a nobody. So
No. The problem is you have to agree with everything on the Democratic side, or you're non grata. Look at all the Democrats who ran with Trump. Trump, Bobby Kennedy, Tulsi, Elon. They're all former Democrats.
Yeah. Trump
They got
was a
run
former
off. They got run off the reservation, man. They couldn't.
Tony, what do you think of Doge with Vivek and Elon? What do you think of Doge?
So a guy who has 2 of his 3 businesses getting government funding, getting contracts from the federal government, is going to decide what other departments in the federal government get to keep their money.
One of those guys
taking
saved
his.
the ass of 2 government employees that got sent up to outer space. Would be dead today if he didn't do it.
That's fine. Great job. I applaud him
good.
for it. And he
Let's
did it with government money.
Outstanding American achievement.
And he did well. It's
Does anybody else?
outstanding South African achievement. But so
He's an
so
American citizen.
So the guy
Yes.
did it with government
He's
funding.
an American citizen right now, but
We
not
have-
if he becomes uncool. If South Africans aren't cool, then he might not be a citizen again, right? He might
So we have 2 guys
We're
who
speculating.
are going to decide which government jobs stay and which ones don't. We're going to fund a brand new department, spend more money on a brand new, previously non-existent department. We're going to have 2 guys doing the job of one.
It's actually not a department. They're just
But they're going to be funded. They're going to have a staff. They're going to have people. They're going to have offices. The government is going to fund them. They're not going to fund themselves. So
You're gonna have Trump's ear. for sure.
I think they'll fund themselves from the savings they realize.
Oh.
But Tony, okay.
Come
you're-
on, Tony. You gotta
think
believe, baby.
I mean, something like the Pentagon just went through its 7th audit in a row, and they still don't know where their money's going. I mean, but going back to the question,
Is there money wasted? Absolutely. Should there be a tightening of it? Absolutely. Should we not have added $7 trillion to the debt in Trump's first term? Absolutely. All of those things are true. Are these the guys who are going to fix it? Doubtful.
And guys, the joke's probably been made before. I don't know if you guys did it earlier, but to have 2 co-chairs of the Department of Government Efficiency seems a little hilarious to me.
but they're not getting. Neither one's getting paid.
Well, we're gonna find
It doesn't
out.
matter.
If
Efficiency isn't just
succeed,
about cost savings.
if
Efficiency is
they
about getting it
succeed,
done correctly.
will you guys
getting
be
it done
happy?
most efficiently, and you can't
Will
do
you
that.
guys
with
be
2
happy
hands.
if they succeed?
Of course, of
Okay, I
course.
just want to hear that.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, go ahead, Mike.
If you were really serious about making the government more efficient, like to Pete's point, not only would you not have 2 chairs, you wouldn't start a new group. You'd take a look at the Government Accounting Office. You'd take a look at the Congressional
Which is their
Budget
job.
Office. You take a look at the people that already have the charter to make the government more efficient, and you'd kick their asses and get them to do their jobs. And yes, I agree with Tony. There's always going to be fat. Of course there is. I mean, basically, our national budget is an insurance company with an army, as they say. It's Medicare, Medicaid, all the social safety net stuff, and the military. That's about 90+% of our national budget. Everything else is rounding errors at some level. So, yeah, the Pentagon needs to get their act together. And yeah, the various social safety net things need to be run efficiently, like the VA hospitals, et cetera. But
they found
there are already
250
government
billion.
agencies in place to do that.
Well, they actually do. In the Federal Government Accountability Office in 2022 found improper payments across 82. I'm reading this across 82 programs, including 81 billion from Medicaid and 47 billion in Medicare. So the entitlements That's 250 billion in 1 year. How come it wasn't stopped?
Well, I don't know whether
I don't know
the
that it
people
was.
they found
How come
were
it
allowed to
wasn't
continue
stopped?
their jobs.
It's like
There's all
we
look,
got guys accounting for it, but no one fucking stops it.
Yeah.
well, no question, it's a problem. You have a huge federal government. It's a huge agency doing a lot of things. And you know what insurance companies call inherent vice? You know what that term means? It means in any given large company, someone's going home with a box of paper clips, someone's swiping an office chair. This shit happens at any big corporation, at any big organization. There's
You guys want to
inefficiency.
take a guess at
I'm
what
not-
percent of the federal government reports to an office 1 day a month? The rest of the time they work from home. What percent?
I don't know.
Take
I
a
don't
guess,
have that
Tony.
data.
Take a guess.
I don't know because I don't care where they work from.
85%.
As long as they're doing their job, I don't
of
care where
the
they
total
do.
government
It's really
works
high.
from home and shows up 1 day a month. You know, if I ran my companies that way, I'd fucking fire those 85%. I'd run the company with 15%.
I work
Go
from
to
home.
work.
I work from
Go-
home because I'm
we're
a
wasting
brilliant
money,
journalist.
guys.
So
We're wasting money. And so Trump is actually doing something no other president has ever done, which is put something in place to really attack it. And you know what? That by itself is going to wake up a lot of these knuckleheads in the government.
Mike, I see your point, and I understand it. Bill, I understand your point. Tony, I understand working from home as well, because I do as well, besides when I'm traveling for camps. But it's one of those things, Mike, going back to what your point was of, yes, the government already has this, what's going on, we just need to tighten the belt. That's not working. To me, it almost looks like we're at the Moneyball situation where we need to bring in a whole new look where, okay, we need to bring in the fat nerd, Jonah Hill or whatever, and say, like, we need to start looking at on-base percentage because the shit we're doing is just not cutting it. I mean,
so I don't disagree with the idea that you put new people in charge of the places of praise. But in Moneyball, what they didn't do is reinvent the way you run a baseball team.
Yeah.
They didn't bring in a third coaching staff and tell the other guys who weren't working to just sit on the bench and wait. We don't need a new agency of efficiency. We've got them in place. Kick their asses and put Jonah Hill in charge of those. I'm fine with that.
Tony, then Charles Schultz, because we start talking about baseball. Go ahead.
is there? It's okay. By the way, in Moneyball, what's left out of the movie is my Angels, act from the same division as the A's, actually won the World Series that year. So there's that. Look, does no one have a problem with the fact that Elon Musk is getting government contracts for his rockets? He's getting government contracts for Tesla. And he's going to be determining which other divisions get to keep their money? Does no one have a problem with that concept?
That's a huge problem, of course.
I have no problem.
Why not?
Okay.
He's a recipient of government handouts, right?
Because we've got all these auditors, right, that are auditing these government contracts. And that when you enter a government contract, you are contracted to deliver
it's more than a
X
government contract.
in exchange for Y.
This is
so what's the problem?
You just told us the auditors aren't doing their job.
Bill, it's more than a contract. It's subsidized It subsidizes businesses.
Yeah.
Are they still subsidizing him? They did in
Yes.
the past.
Yes.
They paid that off. These
Yes.
no longer take it. No.
Yes.
No.
Tesla is still subsidized.
It's like
Absolutely.
Andreal, the defense contractor.
And
These
besides,
guys just operate on a lower cost basis than all these other knuckleheads, defense contractors, and so on in that business. That's why they're so disruptive. That's
Hey
why
Bill,
they're so
can you
successful.
just to get the terms right, could you tell me what a knucklehead is, just so I know, like, who works in the government?
It's an existing government bureaucrat. Okay.
So everyone who's an existing government bureaucrat is a knucklehead.
Everybody.
Yeah, unless they prove themselves. Unless they prove themselves
across all parties.
But
I've been in
30
therapy.
but 30
I've been in
seconds
couples
ago.
therapy. You never say always, and you never say never.
But 30 seconds ago,
Bill's
you said
saying
it's okay for Elon because they have all these auditors. But 4 minutes ago, you told us the auditing of the federal government sucks. So which is
hey, I'm just saying those two things are factual. I'm just spitting facts, Tony.
Okay, I'm not going to believe the auditing on Elon.
Mike was the one that said we have a government accounting office.
Okay,
I
but
agree.
but,
We
We
do.
have several.
but
We
based
do.
on your recommendations, Bill, when the audit
You
with
asked the
Elon comes
question,
up, I'm not
Tony,
going to believe
and
it.
I gave you the answer. And if you don't like the answer, don't ask the questions.
Charles Schultz, what's your thought on Doge, Department of Government Efficiency with Vivek and Elon?
I actually have a question for everybody here. When was the last time you felt the government ran efficiently?
Never.
Spring of
Never.
1999.
I wasn't born yet.
Federal or
Okay.
state?
That's
Federal or
okay,
state?
good. Look, it's never happened, right? We don't feel it's ever run efficiently, right? So why not shake it up? What's the harm? What's the harm at looking at the details, going behind the scenes, and trying to figure out what might be missing?
We
What-
agree
what
with you,
could
I think,
poss-
Charles. We agree
Huh?
with you, but let's put people in place that actually know what the fuck they're talking about.
So the smartest guy on the planet doesn't know what he's
How do we
talking
determine who
Elon
knows
Musk
what
is
they're
the smartest
talking
guy on the planet. Charles,
I mean, he's doing some pretty damn
so
good
back
shit.
it up. Back it up. Did he invent SpaceX? No. Did he invent Tesla? No. Did he
So
invent
he's
PayPal?
running them well, right? Are they
No.
working? Are they running well?
Did he
Are they
inherit
running
an
efficiently?
emerald
Are they
mine?
doing what
Yes.
they're supposed to?
Who
Well,
did?
which is it? Is Elon Musk super smart, or is he just doing what he's supposed
I
to
think
do?
he's super smart. I also think he's running his business as well. I also think that he's somebody who wants to help our country do something differently. And having two people, while you say it's not efficient, provides a checks and balance. Because now you have two people who can bounce things off of them. The other
And who are
piece
they
of this is
beholden
that
to? Who are they beholden to? Who are Vivek and Elon beholden to?
I would imagine the
Just-
president.
We the people.
And
Donald.
us.
Wow,
Yeah, there
they're
you
not
go.
elected. You know what? Actually,
No
Bill, these
bureaucrats
guys,
are.
these
That's
guys
the
are
problem.
future knuckleheads. They're future knuckleheads, Bill.
Perhaps. But until they do
They
something
could
wrong,
be.
until they
could be,
prove it wrong,
until
they
they
could
prove
be
themselves
knuckleheads.
innocent.
The thing of it is that we all agree that the government hasn't run efficiently ever in our lifetime. But we
But
don't
wait,
want to give
before-
somebody a chance
Before we,
to try
before we
to
all
do
agree on
something.
that. We all
I
agree
don't
on
know.
that.
I'm pretty old.
I mean,
I'll say this about the government. You never notice the stuff that does work until it breaks, right? So there is like people get checks in the mail, unemployment checks in the mail. Maybe you don't like that they do, but they do. There are parts of the government that work very efficiently. We've got one of the finest militaries in the world. And I believe that. Is it perfect? No. Do we hear about every time it's not perfect on TV? Yes. Does it make us think that everything's wrong? Yes, but it's not true. You never hear when the water comes out of the tap, no one goes, wow, this plumbing is fantastic. Maryland, the state I live in, has great services. I would warrant there are lots of places in this country that appreciate what the federal government does. I know that a lot of the red states in the middle of the country get their checks from the federal government, subsidize this, subsidize that, all the time. Those checks arrive in a timely fashion, unless Congress fucks up the budget. I actually don't necessarily agree with the fact that the government is never run efficiently. I do agree with the fact that there's always room for more efficiency, that there's always some inefficiency, but I don't frankly agree with the idea
Let's
that it's
ask
never run
Peanut the squirrel.
That's a joke, right, Bill?
I'm
That's a
sorry.
joke.
Did we move over to Trump's
Guys,
nominee for Fish and Wildlife?
I don't want to
'Cause didn't
disparage
quite
Peanut the
follow that.
squirrel, but I heard Peanut was trans. So do you guys know about him?
And just one
Well, then you
Free.
would just cut his dick off. Then. Come on.
Bushy tail joke here.
one real quick thing while we're like, getting on our knees for Elon. The guy bought Twitter for $44 billion. It's worth $10 billion, and he's suing advertising consortiums because he's butthurt that they won't advertise on his site because some of the stuff is such trash.
Tony, I got.
I worked in advertising.
He's got
for
control of all
15
three
years.
branches of the government.
I
That's a hell
worked.
of an investment.
Okay, but
So,
I'm saying,
so Bill,
I'm saying
is
he's
that
not
good?
the genius.
Is that a good thing, Bill? He's not elected. Are you for
I'm
the
just.
rule of law?
Come on, Pete. Have us. That's a joke. That
Oh,
was a
sorry,
joke.
Peanut. I didn't get that as a
You're
joke.
a
I got your
little
peanut
sensitive
joke. I didn't
tonight.
get that as a joke. I
But
apologize.
but
I'll
my
stand
point
down.
my point being the genius who's lost $33 billion in value on a social media site. You know what? Maybe he's not such a genius. He leveraged this Tesla stock in order to get the collateral to buy Twitter.
Oh, I think
and he's
he'll
driven
be
the value
just-
down.
I think he'll be just fine with his Twitter investment. Give him time.
Speaking of him spending $42 billion, but what about the people that say that $42 billion saved free speech?
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's shut down my account 3 times because I went at him. So yeah, he's great at free speech unless it's something directed at him.
Hey, raise your hand if you got put in a timeout on Twitter before he bought it.
But okay, let me go back to Tony. Tony, what did you say to him that got you into Twitter jail or X jail?
I asked him about the financing of Twitter, how much the investors were losing, and I got blocked for about a week. And now I've got to be careful because I have a highly successful, or I'm part of a highly successful sports media company that uses social media to get our work out there. So, I've got to treat Elon like, he's the king now. Even though
business partner.
It's look, man, there was stuff he's got his algorithms that are the For You section and the ones that you're following. Somehow in the For You section in my feed about 2 weeks ago was a tweet from a woman on the beach with her husband and their child, and it said faggots could never. And somehow but Elon wonders why people don't want to advertise on this beautiful site like this. He needs to grow up. And that was one of the other things I told him when I got blocked was you need to grow up.
Okay, so but you got one post and that's you think that's that's bad?
No, I think it's symbolic of some of the trash that he allows on there, which is why the advertisers jumped ship. And now he's suing the advertising consortiums because he thinks they're all plotting against him because he's got a, as most billionaires do, he's got a healthy dose of paranoia.
Well, but then I think it was 2 days ago, I think over 20 of the big advertisers are coming back now. Sure. After a year off, they're coming back.
And that's fine. That's what the free market is supposed to do. But he sued them because he's anti-free market.
But going back to the free speech thing, what about all the people that try to talk about the Hunter Biden laptop or the Russian collusion or this COVID thing? Or 51 federal agents that said all the El Trumpo was involved with Russia, and everything turned out to be fake. You couldn't even share on a DM the Hunter Biden laptop. So what about them? They're saying, okay, this was free speech that was completely zoned down.
Yeah, look. You're not, the Hunter Biden laptop, please. Rudy Giuliani had possession of the laptop for 6 months. You're not going to get me on that. But in terms of free speech and I'm for free speech. That's fine. I'm a journalist. I am for free speech, I assure you. But he's not for unilateral. He's not for all-encompassing free speech. He cuts people off when he doesn't like what they wrote, usually about him. So let's not pretend he's the king of free speech. He's the king. He's the king of topical free speech.
But wasn't that just Twitter the other way before he bought it?
I don't know. Yeah. He's got 200 million followers. How he could see a tweet from any of us is.
Oh, he's got people that do it and they follow their instructions.
Oh, just like before.
Charles Wallace, go ahead and say that again.
Wasn't what we're saying now, what we're saying Elon does now, isn't that just what Twitter was doing to the other side before Elon bought Twitter?
You know what? But Jack Dorsey never once sat there and said, I'm the king of free speech. Yeah. Jack Dorsey said, I own this company and it's going to be what I want it to be on it or don't.
And that's what Elon says now.
No, Elon, come on. You all are sitting here bloviating over Elon being the king of free speech.
Now, Elon's the king of Twitter. You can do what he wants.
It's his company.
It's X.
He paid $44 billion for it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on. I like that one. That was good. Let's go to the next spicy one that I think everyone will get going on. New Secretary of Health and Human Services, possibly Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Anyone's thoughts on that? Charles Schultz, you seem very healthy and you work out a lot in your gym with your hoodie on. What's your thoughts on Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Secretary of Health and Human Services?
My big thing with a lot of what Trump's doing is it's time to shake it up and do something different. Now, I understand the concerns. He said some things that are not in line with what I believe as well. But at the end of the day, some transparency wouldn't hurt. Some change in what we do as a society when it comes to our food and our health programming for our children. And people used to, you look at losing gym class, and hopefully there's some inclusion in that with what he's doing and bringing back physical education. And I really want to see just us as a country start to trend towards being healthier like we used to. I see so many, unfortunately, out of shape, overweight young people as a coach. And it's time to start to get back and be healthy, because as we get healthier, one, we function better as a society. We're more productive. Our brains work better. We have ability to cope and handle things more. We become more resilient. There's a lot of positives to, if he goes about it the right way, just like everybody, whoever's assigned to anything, good things can come from this. Because again, I don't think that we've done a very good job of telling the American people what everything does. The COVID vaccine is one that I don't really feel comfortable. I didn't get it. I didn't feel like it was done right. I didn't feel like they had the details out there. They didn't tell me all the stuff. And then it turns out there were some side effects that they probably should have told people about. Ultimately, I want to see transparency when it comes to what's going on with the vaccines. I had my vaccines. My kids have had most of theirs. I did not do the COVID shot for them at that as well. I don't do the flu shot. I'm not anti-vax, but I'm okay with him saying, let's see some testing done. Let's see some stuff put out there. Let's let the people decide. And I think at the end of the day, that's what we should all want, is our own choice and our own decision to make these things for ourselves.
Pete, and then I'm going to come to Crazy Man. Pete?
Yeah, I mean, I think first I want to say that I agree with Charles. Like, I don't know if transparency is the word, but I want America to be healthier, right? And if Robert Kennedy Jr. is the one to do it, great. I don't think he will be. I lived in Denmark for 3 years, and the junk food in Denmark is so much healthier than anything here. There, you don't need any transparency. You don't need transparency to know that high fructose corn syrup is bad. You just don't. Mm-hmm. It's a scientific proof thing. Right. So that's just one. I don't know all the ins and outs, but like. Yeah. But like Pringles is like my road trip thing. I feel like shit after I finish a whole sleeve of Pringles. In Denmark, I could eat 2 of them. I feel like I can run a marathon. Like it's light. It doesn't make me feel heavy, and that's government regulation. And it's the irony in this conversation. I think government regulation is how we're going to get that with food and health of the country. It's not going to be free market, because free market, you're going to get high fructose corn syrup and bad shit in your food. I'm pro-vax. I love vaccines. They taste great. I take as many as I can get, and I've never had the flu, and I've never had COVID, and I've lived in 2 different countries during COVID, right? Like, that's a different discussion. I think if Charles, we can keep to the food, food, we need someone that can be a role model too. And Charles, I mean, Chris says you work out, you look healthy. I work out. Do you think that at 70 something years old, Robert F. Kennedy is not on roids, on something?
I think he probably is doing TRT.
I don't even know what that is, but that doesn't
sound.
TRT
is a testosterone replacement therapy. It's done by doctors. It's designed to help us maintain a higher level of testosterone as we age, because as we get older, we naturally have a decline in testosterone. Sure. Unfortunately, in America, for whatever reason, it has been an extremely steep decline in testosterone, where men of my age, or actually, I'm sorry, kids who are in the peak of their prime testosterone, whatever, are actually lower than men who were in their 50s 20 years ago. Now, I don't know where the study came from. I saw the statistics.
Sure.
I believe that to be true based on my evidence of watching young people move and how just sluggish and lethargic and not energized they are. So I think there is some truth. Now, is it that much? I don't know. But I do think that we have seen a decline in testosterone, which is very important for men. And it also helps us to stay leaner, move better, be more cognitively aware. And to speak to the food thing that you were talking about, there was a recent article I saw. Robert F. Kennedy was talking about how Fruit Loops in America has different products than Fruit Loops in Canada.
Yeah.
Why?
So, yeah.
Like, why?
I worked in advertising for part of my career, and I worked at Saatchi & Saatchi, and we did all General Mills. We did like not Fruit Loops, so we did Cocoa Puffs and all that stuff and Lucky Charms. And this is like 10, 15 years ago. They were starting to come up with they thought there was going to be a low sugar push and and so they started working on how the chemistry they needed to do to make that happen. They do it, like to your point, Charles, they do it everywhere else. They don't do it in the US because they're not getting penalized and there's no regulation to do it. But every other country eating our junk food, American junk food, is eating healthier food than what we're eating.
So isn't it a good thing that someone is coming in to monitor this? And that's like his big thing is like, okay, our food is shit. Their food is not. Like you said, I've heard 1,000 people say you could eat pasta like you're going out of style in Italy and you feel better than you would even just eating the exact same meal here. Crazy man, what's your thoughts? You work out a lot. You're running all these marathons.
I actually agree with Charles and Pete. It's like rest of the world is that they have the FDA I don't think looks out for the best interests. So you definitely have better food outside America. But I do agree with we're not getting our kids exercising a lot more. And I work in the schools and they have gym class twice a week for 50 minutes. A week, and they'll do some exercising and running, and they'll get the kids running around the track. But you'll start to see these kids have less drive on walking. They'll just start walking instead of doing a light jog. You'll see how these kids are more attached to their phones, to sitting down, where it was back in the 80s and 70s, where we went outside, we ran, we did everything we want. And the only time we had to being at home one time is when the streetlights came on. So I think our society as a whole has hindered us on being fit, where it was you had the physical fitness test being the president. You don't hear that anymore.
Okay, hold on. So what I'm hearing is if this guy's name wasn't Robert F. Kennedy Jr., you guys are okay with this, or are you guys a thumbs up to this move? Or
if he's the best person for the job, great. To me, that's not who I'm looking at right now. I'm looking at the Department of Education.
Well, that's a whole. We don't have time for that. Jesus, Michael McD, do you Robert F. Kennedy, good or bad?
No, I'm not a fan. I think that
by sub 6 minutes, but try to keep it like 20 seconds down. Okay, real quick.
I think because I don't think he believes scientists. I'm okay with the ideas that Charles has promoted about more education, more healthier food, more exercise. All that stuff is great. It's also backed by science. The stuff he says about vaccines and other stuff, I think it's social politics and not backed by science.
Okay, so vaccine issue, you have a no. All the other shit you say good for him. Gru, yes or no? In 20 seconds.
Yes, I think. He will do some job, and then we're gonna see if it's gonna be a good job or a bad job. We'll judge when you see what he does. In my opinion.
Bill Geiser, yay, nay, why?
I'm in favor of it. Number one, I think it won him the election. Aligning with a legendary Democratic name, like Kennedy. Number one, I think the Make America Healthy Again is a really ambitious and good goal for the country. I don't think it's not going to happen in a 4-year term. I mean, I think we can make progress. I hope it's something we continue doing. I like his focus on food. I disagree a bit with Mike on the vaccine thing. I don't think he said vaccines are bad. I think he just says, I want to see some rigor, scientific rigor on it. He's not anti-science. And the other thing I like is he wants to put a big gap between this cozy relationship between big pharma execs who come and go in our government. He doesn't want that. And I agree with that. I think we should keep that separate. So
yeah, I think that one's hard not to agree with. Tony, yay, nay, we're RFK Jr. and why?
I agree. Let me say first, I agree with what Bill said about big pharma and keeping them out of the government. Completely agree. We have concerns about the vaccines. Wait, wasn't it Trump who took credit for pushing the operation, whatever it was, with the vaccines? That was Trump. I'm looking forward to the return of polio and iron lungs, under Kennedy, because he doesn't like the polio vaccine. We do need to be healthier. We do need to eat healthier. And when Michelle Obama tried to get America to eat healthier, y'all screamed that it was government overreach.
Exactly.
So why isn't he government overreach? I'm in favor of us eating healthier. I'm not in favor of the hypocrisy that it's okay with him, but not with other people.
Charles Wallace.
2 big thumbs up. He's jacked. Health's a simple thing. You can look at someone real quick and determine if I'm going to take you seriously when it comes to health and fitness. He's jacked. We should have jacked people in government.
I think I got everyone on this one. Sub 60, you want to come in? He's yelling at me on the side that I'm going to run over time. 60,
yeah, of course. What's that?
I would say we're at 56 minutes. This was a fantastic panel, obviously led by the great host, but I thought this was a fantastic panel. You guys all did a wonderful, wonderful job. This is exactly how I wanted the show to go when it was originally thought of 2 years ago, where we have some on the left, some on the right, some in the middle, argue. You could still think that guy's an asshole at the end, or you can not say, well, I kind of agree with him on this, or I don't agree with him on that. And that's fine. Okay, I think that's okay. And, you may not agree and you may agree, but it doesn't matter as long as you each have a voice to have. Sub 60?
Yeah, I agree. You know what? I agree with you. And I think we did a great job. It's finally what it was meant to be, what it was set out to be. And I appreciate Charles, Mike, Pete, Tony coming in and being that other side of the thing. And I guess it's time to decide who's the panelist, right?
Tony.
I don't know. I think it's going to be Tony. Yeah, Tony.
It's Tony.
Because I forgot to.
Shocker again, as always, Ed.
No, Tony's not the new one. Mike.
Yeah, I know.
Mike would have been the new one.
It was never about the new one.
What's it about?
The liberal one.
No, it's not the liberal one. I've given it to Bill before. I've given it to you. I know.
I'm fucking with you.
I know. I love you too,
the guy with no hair.
Once again, if you guys want to be on the show or know someone that would be great on the show, to look at decadesshow24@gmail.com. I want to thank our panelists once again: Bill Geiser, Crazy Man, Gru, Michael McD, Pete, Charles Wallace, Tony Siracusa, and Charles Schultz. You guys all did an absolute fantastic job. I really appreciate you coming on Decades, and we will see you guys in another 2 weeks. Signing up, I'm Rubio.